Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are going to use a free sample pack called Kill the Devil sample pack inside Reaper, and we're going to practice time stretching to make things fit within the tempo grid of our project. That's very important if you're going to start trying to beat match. You've got to be able to feel where the beats are in the bar, count how many bars there are in certain samples in order to beat match them properly. So let's get started doing that. Okay, so today we're practicing time stretching audio to fit into our project grid, and that's a very important skill if you're planning to make remixes or mashups and trying to do beat matching. If you don't make use of the project grid, it's really hard to make loops and different songs match each other in terms of tempo. If we match every single thing to the project grid, they're all going to match each other. So that's what we're practicing today. Let's get started. We're going to insert a media file called Battle Scars, number 1. And we're going to have a listen and count how many bars of music we think it goes for. Now, when we're counting bars of music, we don't just count 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over. We actually replace the 1 to give us the bar numbers. So have a listen. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was 4 bars of music. But looking at the time grid up here in Reaper, it actually says it goes a little bit more than into the 7th bar. If I zoom in with the up arrow, you can see all the bar numbers now. Note that if you zoomed right out, you can only sort of see every 4 bars, like bar 1, bar 5, bar 9. So don't make the mistake of thinking like that's 1 bar of music. That's actually 4 bars of music there. It's just that we're zoomed out. So the up and down arrow keys actually are the same as these plus and minus buttons. They control the horizontal zoom. The vertical zoom is controlled by these plus and minus, or the page up and page down keys. So I'm going to zoom it so I can see around about the first 8 bars from 1.1 through to 9.1. You might remember that we counted that's 4 bars. To fit that in to 4 bars, it should go from 1.1 to 5.1. So I'm actually going to hold Alt and drag it over to 5.1. What that's done is actually increase the rate of playback to 1.5 times the original speed, which now fits into our tempo grid. Have a listen. And have a listen with the metronome at 120 beats per minute. Right in time, isn't it? 4, 2, 3, 4. Great. So we know that it's in time. We got it right. It was 4 bars long. Now, if we actually don't hold Alt, if we just drag the end of that over to 9.1, it's actually created a copy of itself. So you see the little divot there, and have a listen to this. So it's looped itself. Perfect. So that's a quick way of dealing with loops. Is you can drag them out and they'll loop themselves. For today's project, we're just going to pretty much fill these first 8 bars of music with various different loops. Okay, so that one's finished. Let's save it. So File, Save Project. And it's pretty important to stay organized. So hopefully you've got some kind of a music media folder or somewhere on your hard disk that you're going to keep organized. I'm going to tell it to create a subdirectory for each of my projects. Projects always gather lots of different files, like audio files, that Reaper uses in the background. If you don't create subdirectories, it gets really messy. So for each project you do, you should tell it to create a subdirectory. And it's also very important that you tell it to copy all the media for that project into the project directory. Otherwise, you end up losing loops, and Reaper says it can't find files, and you end up with offline files, meaning that you can't actually hear anything, because Reaper actually does require the original files that we bring into it to be accessible. So let's make it easy and tell Reaper just to copy any media that we bring into this project, copy that media into the project directory. So save. Hopefully that all made sense. Now we're going to bring in our second loop. Double click below the first track to create a new track. And we're going to insert a media file. Number 2, Battle for the Umbra Throne 1. You see it brought it into track 2. We don't want to hear both of those at once. Let's mute track 1 with the M here or the M on the mixer. You can actually toggle the mixer on and off with Control M. I might just leave it on for now. Let's have a listen and count how many bars this loop goes for. But turn the metronome off because that was out of time at this point in time. Are you counting the bars? Did you find that hard or easy to count along with? I sort of felt as I could hear a tempo like that. So that implies to me that that's the speed I should count at when I count along. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 7, 2, 8, 2, 3, 4. So that's an 8-bar loop. So most of these loops we're getting are from a loop pack. They've done the hard work of making them into 4 or 8-bar loops. When you're actually doing your own remixes and stuff, you're going to have to actually be able to count, sections of music and create the cuts yourself. So we're going to practice that in a later task. But for now, let's drag that so it takes up 8 bars whilst holding Alt. There we go, which does the time stretch. You note that it's actually going to play it at a little bit slower than its original speed. It's going to be at 0.83 of its original speed. If you're curious what the original speed was, you can use the mouse wheel and move it until this gets to 1.0. And you'll see that this original speed was 144 beats per minute, BPM. And the original speed of the Battle Scars was around about 80-ish, a little bit below 80. A strange somewhere between 77 and 78. Okay, but for this project, keep your tempo at 120. Did you notice how Reaper actually, when I adjusted the tempo, it doesn't look like it's changing much. It still occupies 8 bars. It's playing a lot slower. If I make it faster. So basically Reaper's quite powerful. It can change the rate of the audio to match our tempo changes, which is what we want to do. But for now, as I said, keep it at 120. We'll learn those fancy tricks later. Mute that one, new track, and insert a media file number 3. Let's have a listen. I'd like you to count how many bars you think this goes for. Did you think 4 bars again? Let's have a listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Yep, so you probably got to 4 bars. And then that means it finishes at 5.1. Hold Alt, drag it over. Notice because we have the snap grid enabled, it keeps on snapping it to the beats. Very handy. All right, so with this one, I think we fit it into 4 bars. We could have actually decided to try it in 8 bars. Let's have a listen. Cool kind of halftime vibe. Depending on the project you're creating, you might say, hey, I actually like it at half speed. But for today, let's keep it at 4 bars and drag it out so that it repeats itself twice. So you've got the loop there happening twice in that period. Excellent. Mute that. Control S. That's a hotkey you should use regularly no matter what you're doing on computers, just to save your progress and, not have the heartbreak of when you work for a couple of hours and lose everything. So please always Control S quite regularly. We're going to insert a media file, but I haven't created a new track yet. So double click down here, insert media file, the 4th one, chapter clear 2. And I'm going to hit W to rewind. I accidentally inserted it at bar 9. Just going to drag it over to bar 1 And let's count how many bars it goes for. Another 4-bar loop. So we're going to remember, what key do we hold here when we want the hand? Alt. Drag it over. So we've got our loop here. It takes up 4 bars. Now let's try something you might want to do if you're creating a loop-based project. You might decide, hey, I kind of want this to repeat these bars 3 times. Sorry. And then after the 3rd time, let it finish off. So what we're going to do, I'm actually going to grab that and I'm going to split it halfway. Then I'm going to, with the S key, I'm going to drag over that part of it to bar 7. Then this part here we want to happen 3 times. A few ways we could do it. We could Control C, click at 3.1 and press Control V twice. That was pretty quick. Another way, you can hold Control. See how there's a plus on the cursor? Now when I drag it, it doesn't move it, it actually copies it. That was really quick as well. Okay, so now we've actually got AAAB format. It's got the same thing 3 times. And then the change. So that's kind of cool for, that would create a good 8-bar loop for your project instead of being super repetitive. It gives a bit of variation. Okay, let's mute that one. So let's move on to our 5th loop. Double click to put in a new track, insert media file, number 5. And we're going to have a listen. Okay, so that's a bit more than 4 bars. We could choose to figure out a point here at the start of the 5th bar where to split it. But I think let's just keep the first 2 bars. So let's zoom in with page up, or in fact, the plus over here. We're going to zoom in a bit more. And we're trying to look for where the 3rd bar starts. So see, it's this transient here, that bigger patch of audio. I can't actually click there right now because the Snap to grid is actually prohibiting me. If I come up to the magnet, turn off Snap, you can use Alt-S if you want to use the shortcut. And I can now actually click right before that. Here, that's the start of the bar. If I'm a bit early, you hear it's a bit messy. Or if I'm a bit late, you don't hear the impact. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm zooming right in and I'm sort of looking for what we call a zero crossing. When the waveform has a point where it's really at the center line, that's a good point to edit. So I'm going to hit split, S for split, and delete that second half of it. Zoom out with my down arrow key. And I counted out that was 2 bars. Hey, let's check it out. 2, 3. So currently it goes for 3 and a bit bars. 2 and a bit. Let's turn the magnet back on because if I'm going to stretch that over, I don't want to have to get exactly on 3.1. I'm trying to get there. I can't get there. I'm just going to turn the grid on, Snap to, and then suddenly straight away, it's gone straight to, although the cursor is kind of prohibiting. There we go. Okay, so I've now stretched that. It's 2 bars long. Let's test our loop. So I've highlighted to create a time selection of 2 bars. I'm going to turn repeat on. And if I'm happy that sounds like a clean repeat, which I am, I'm going to right click on it and tell it to glue the item. Now what that enables me to do, I'll glue it, and then when I actually drag it, it's going to loop itself and I can put all those loops in here. If I hadn't glued it, and I drag to the right, it kind of still remembers because we're dealing with what we call non-destructive editing. even when I've split that, it actually still remembers what exists behind it or to the edge of it, and it would drag all the way over and then repeat. We don't want to do that. We want to actually create a really nice 2-bar loop. So we're actually going to do something destructive. We're going to glue it, and that's actually created a different underlying wave file called chapter clear glued. And now when I actually drag it, it comes over to 9.1 and plays itself 4 times. Cool. So that could be, pretty cool for a housey sort of tune. I'm going to zoom out a bit vertically with page down. Let's bring in a 6th track, mute that one, insert media file number 6. Oops, now I'd inserted my track, but actually I inserted it up there. I'm going to Control Z that. That's another shortcut key along with Control S. Of course, you know that from various things, but I'm just going to click down here. W is rewind, by the way. Check it out. See, home it mentions here, but I like to use W to rewind. And then I'm going to do insert media, bring in that 6th file now, and let's have a listen to it. Now the question is the piano playing the piano notes 1 beat long each like this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3. That's possible, but I think I hear it more like it's quavers or 8th notes going like 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4 and 2 and 4. It feels like it's 4 bars to me. So let's have a listen to it. Yeah, I think it sounds kind of cool at that 1.7 of its original speed, but you might find in your project, whatever you're making, like some kind of atmospheric soundtrack or something, that might be a bit more moody and sad or something for you. But for today, let's just roll with the quicker option, fitting it into 4 bars instead of fitting it into 8 bars. And then I'm going to drag the end of it once my computer gives me the correct cursor. There we go. And I'm happy with that. Cool. So see how it repeats itself. We're going to finish off with one more. Control S to save again. Insert media file. Now this is going to actually place it up there because that's highlighted. Let's just insert media file now and listen to this one. Mute that one, of course. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, now this time to me it felt like a quicker tempo, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, because there's more gravity from the other instruments here. It feels like 3, 4. So I think fitting that into 8 bars is appropriate. If we did it to 4 bars, that's kind of cool actually, isn't it? But I think we'll go with 8 bars, holding Alt to stretch that. And there we have it. We've got all of our edited tracks. We could have a listen to them all together, and they should all be in time, but harmonically, they'll probably sound pretty horrendous. So how about we just pick out a couple at a time. Okay, so they're all in time. So as I said before, this skill is very important if you're creating loop-based music, if you're doing a mashup of different tunes and wanting to have a bit of an overlapping beat matching section. If you're not using the project grid, it's really hard. So make your life easier. You're going to be able to pull out some really cool beat matching techniques. And when you create a mashup of two tunes, you're going to be able to have them, overlapping for a little bit of time in time. So let's leave it there for this particular task. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And please do make requests if there's anything you want to learn how to do in the comments below here.